Obesity, weighing in on a growing crisis. Let me first start off by explaining what obesity actually is and what effects it can have on your body. The following summaries about obesity and the human heart are taken from the website of the American Heart Association. Obesity can simply be defined as having too much body fat. Your body is made up of water, fat, protein, carbohydrates, and various vitamins and minerals. If your body consists of too much fat, especially in your waist area, you're at higher risk for health problems. Some of these health problems include high blood pressure, high blood cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Furthermore, obesity is now recognized as a major risk factor for coronary heart disease, which can also lead to a heart attack. Some of these reasons are for higher risk than others, but others are not even known. People are mistaken when they often say obesity is a personal problem. Obesity is more than just a personal health problem. Yes, obesity can hurt an individual in ways of disease, loss of productivity, and expensive medical bills. But the costs of obesity go far beyond the individual costs. They extend to the nation as a whole. Why? Because many of the healthcare procedures performed in the United States are paid for by taxpayer dollars. Even when such medical costs are covered under private insurance, that insurance is too paid for by other members of the public, making it a burden that must be carried by the general public and not just the individual who is incurring these costs. Furthermore, obesity reduces the lifespan and especially the working life of individuals, which takes away from a society because it takes away the contributions that these obese people would offer to the workforce. In other words, a person who is healthy and fully functional both mentally and physically can contribute more to a society in terms of ideas, productivity, and creativity than a person who is confined to a hospital bed because they have undergone gastric bypass surgery or some other procedure that was ordered as a result of obesity. As naturalnews.com says, the long-term trend in all of this is somewhat alarming. Both states and the federal government stand to be bankrupted by healthcare costs associated with obesity and the chronic diseases caused by obesity. This is becoming more obvious now that Medicare is paid for by taxpayer dollars. It threatens to drain public funds in the never-ending treatment for obese citizens. Perhaps the solution is to make investments in prevention, so that citizens in the United States and in other countries can learn how to avoid obesity from the very beginning. Prevention is by far the least expensive way to provide health care to the general public. With prevention, you avoid the costs associated with expensive pharmaceuticals, surgical procedures, hospitalization, and loss of work productivity. As naturalnews.com says, teaching prevention actually results in a financial loss for pharmaceutical companies, surgeons, hospitals, and other healthcare providers who have expanded their businesses in the anticipation of that we continue to get obese. Any healthcare strategy that makes the population at large healthier and prevents the onset of chronic diseases will inevitably harm the profits and limit the growth of those type of companies. And that is the primary reason why prevention is not taught. As we all know, today's economy is already in a financial catastrophe. And now on top of that, there is a continuing high demand for health services for treating a population that has become known as the most diseased group of people in the history of human civilization. Now you might be wondering, how bad is our obesity levels in this country? So let's take a look. Here's a chart that shows several countries and their obesity levels, and their levels of how often they walk. As an American, it is a shame to see that the United States has the highest percentage of obese people, as well as the lowest percentage of how many people walk. Another big part that obesity has on today's society and economy is that obesity brings out prejudice. There are two key types of prejudice against obese people. and you are about to see the two types through a few cartoons made by cartoonstock.com. This first cartoon shows that people judge people's personalities by the way they look. People judge others without even getting to know them, and very often, obese people may not get the respect they deserve because of how they look, just as this cartoon shows. This next cartoon shows one key thing: profiling. It is not often that we hear about obese profiling, or profiling about the size of people, big or small, but yes, it does exist. For example, I read about a journalist who was doing a report on obesity profiling. In his experiment, there was a case in which an obese man rented out a hotel room and had a lot of food sent to his room. The journalist had the obese man wreck the room with napkins, chicken wings, pizza boxes, forks, etc. The next day, the maid cleaned the room. However, the obese man got a call from the hotel the next day, saying that he will be billed extra for having an extraordinary mess. The obese man checked out of the hotel, and the next day a clean-cut, in-shape man checked into the same exact hotel. The journalist had the clean-cut man do the same exact thing. He wrecked the room and made a sloppy mess with all the food, just same mess as the obese man did. The next day, the in-shape gentleman checked out of the hotel without any problem and did not get an extra service charge that the obese man got. That is a perfect example of profiling. Now that we've seen how there's prejudice against obese people in today's world, let's now go into further detail and see how there's prejudice against obese people in the business world within companies. This cartoon is a great example that shows the price of being obese into the business world. The picture shows that the sales are down, and it has an angry boss blaming the drop in sales on the salesman being overweight. This cartoon is kind of like the slogan, "Sex sells," in a way. It shows that a man that is in shape and that looks better will often sell more than an obese, overweight man. Time and time again, overweight people do not get the salary bonus they were hoping for, and they do not get the promotion they've been looking forward to. It is a common fact that the healthy, more in-shape people have a much better chance at surviving in the business world. In the book Food and Culture, Alice Julier writes an essay called The Political Economy of Obesity, The Fat Pay All. It is in this essay where several points that I have previously mentioned get backed up by Julier. For example, Julier wrote about how it is a simple fact that overweight people have a much tougher time finding jobs and getting promotions than people that are healthy and in shape. Another example of how Julier's essay relates to what has been said previously in this movie is about companies in today's society. Businesses like pharmaceutical companies, exercise companies, and health industries all have job positions that only remain on one thing: that obesity stays in today's society. It is the overweight people that need to go to the gym, which keep the trainers' jobs and exercise gyms available. And it is the overweight people that need medication, which keeps pharmaceutical companies hiring people to work to create weight loss formulas. And lastly, it is overweight people that need the big-time surgeries that keep doctors and nurses employed within that field. Therefore, naturalnews.com and Alice Julier both have the same point as well. One final point that Julier mentions, which relates to what we have mentioned earlier in this movie, is that Julier often uses the term size acceptance. This relates to the profiling and the prejudice that we previously talked about. In conclusion, obesity levels in the United States have been out of control, and if they are not maintained soon, the economy will continue to struggle more and more. And as Alice Julier says best, phenomena like the obesity epidemic can only be eliminated when it becomes dysfunctional for those who benefit from its control.